This is Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily with Andrew Hustler Patterson and Michael Remis.
Hey now, welcome to another Monday edition of Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Michael Remis here in the host chair for Hustler. He'll be back Wednesday, still in Costa Rica. You will hear from him before the end of the show, him and Jeff Hamilton discussing some of the top stories of the weekend. I'm going to be joined by Connor Hrabchak very shortly for some great discussion. But first, I want to give a shout out to all the sponsors making this show possible. Winnipeg Jets, Uptown Alley, Rolly's Transfer, St. Vital Dental, Canadian Club, Princess Auto, Chud's Power Sports, Manitoba Battery, Clean Line, Little Brown Jug, Boston Pizza, Royal Sports, and Cool Bet. I think I got mixed up there. But what a weekend it was. Winnipeg Jets in Florida, and they got called out in the previous loss against Tampa for not going into the hard areas, staying on the outside, and I think they did the opposite of that on Saturday against the Panthers, and a comeback win, and the Jets have not had many comeback wins this season. After trailing after two periods, they're now at 2-18-2. So credit to them for doing that. Cole Perfetti with the goal, classic driving to the net from Velarde. Perfetti getting the rebound, getting rewarded, and Mark Scheifele with the game-winning goal. And Gus Nyquist, welcome Gus Nyquist to the lineup, getting in on that one. The Jets are in Dallas tonight. Not anticipating any line changes from last game. And so that is the latest on the Winnipeg Jets. And the Bombers coming out hot in free agency, signing Jarrell Broxton, our defensive line, Jake Serezna, D-line. We'll be talking a lot about that with Taylor Allen of the Winnipeg Free Press, Mike McIntyre, more Jets discussion, and again, Hustler and Jeff. Let's bring in Connor Hrabchak, host of WST Sunday Live, the WST postgame, which we're going to be doing the postgame tonight for Jet Stars. Yes. What's happening? Connor, what a weekend. I got to say, and I'm going to say this throughout the show, I was pretty nervous about last night. I love Sunday Night Football, sitting on the couch, whatever game it is with, I'm going to say Al and Chris, but it's Mike Tirico and Al. Mike Tirico and Chris Collinsworth on Sunday Night Football. But we had the Stadium Series game last night, which was incredible. One of the top outdoor games of all time, I would think. And the Scotties, incredible drama with Carrie Einarson winning her 5th Scotties over Manitoba's Caitlin Laws. So you had the all-Manitoba matchup and the Scotties switching back and forth with the Stadium Series. But great weekend, Connor, and we did have some Jets win and some big Bomber news as well. So very exciting.
Yeah, very exciting sports weekend, Remo, and the excitement's only gonna keep rising this week as the Olympics get underway later this week. But yeah, like you said, the Jets with a nice comeback win in Florida. There haven't been many of those this season, only their second win when trailing after 2. And then we had Sunday Live, Sunday morning, Liz and I, so shout out to everyone who tuned in Sunday morning at 9 a.m. And then, the Bombers making some big moves in free agency. We're going to talk a lot about that today. Super pumped for all of those signings that they made. And then the Scotties, Carrie Einarson, what a shot in the 10th end to extend it, push it to extras, and then end up winning her 5th Scotties tournament and that Stadium Series, Remis. I mean, you and I talked about the theme of it going into the weekend and how we were a big fan of the Gasparilla Festival with the Pirates and all that. They knocked it out of the park. They fully leaned into the pirate theme. John Cooper's wearing a ridiculous outfit. There's a outdoor goalie fight, and the game ends up 6-5 in a shootout. Like, what a hockey game, and a home run for the NHL. You and I talked about it a few days ago, that having a marquee event like that going into, it's not Super Bowl weekend yet, and it's coming out of NFL Conference Championship weekend. There's not much on TV on that Sunday. There turned out to be a ton on TV, but the NHL scheduling that event and getting the game that they got was a massive home run for them. And anytime you can see an outdoor goalie fight, I mean, I am certainly not complaining. So it was an awesome sports weekend, Remis. Glad to be here to chop it all up.
Yeah, you had, just on the Stadium Series, you had the Bruins, like, entering the stadium. You have to get dressed up. So they went as, I guess, Patriot, like New England Patriots, wearing the old style, and the Tampa Bay Lightning. I thought they were going to wear pirate costumes, but they wore the creamsicle Buccaneers. It was kind of, and then John Cooper's dressed as like Scarface back there with the suit. I think it was it had a theme, and like all the coaches are dressed crazy. And then you have Mark Messier on the panel in full, like, Jerry Seinfeld puffy shirt. It was something to watch. It was a spectacle, and it was a great game, as you mentioned. So that was very exciting. And we do have some NHL news, and I got to talk about people in the chat. Bringing this up, I wasn't going to talk about it right away, but I got to cave to demand. We did have some NHL news today where Barry Trotz stepping down as GM of the Nashville Predators. Nashville hasn't had the success that you thought they would after we declared them the offseason champions a couple years ago, signing Brady Shea, Jonathan Marchessault, and Steven Stamkos. And maybe some of those names could be on the move as we approach the trade deadline, but Barry Trotz stepping down. So everyone's saying, is there another Trotz watch? I mean, I'm sure you want to know what he's going to do next, if anything, but it's not like it was when he got let go by the Islanders. We had people flocking to our channel because the Jets were looking for a head coach. I don't think anything. I think it's just interesting because he's a big name. People are bringing it up, but I guess I'm curious what he's going to do next. And interesting that a GM of position would just step down. So I'm not sure if he's got something on the go. They just had a press conference announcing it.
Yeah, what can we offer Barry Trotz this time around with Trotz Watch 2.0, Remo? No, I'm just kidding. We're moving past that. It's interesting because Trotz took over an already pretty old team in the Nashville Predators, and when they became the offseason champions that one year, he kind of doubled down on that, signing Stamkos, Marchessault, Brady Shea, all like Stamkos and Marchessault at nearing the ends of their careers, Brady Shea on the wrong side of 30, and doubling down on that old core. Hasn't really worked out for them. I mean, they're kind of in that mushy middle right now in the West where, you look at the standings, they're only X amount of points out of a playoff spot, but how realistic is it if they're going to actually make it there? So Barry Trotz stepping down, and it's going to be interesting to see what the future holds. Does he get back into coaching? Does he stay in a management role, or does he just retire altogether? It'll be interesting to follow that story here over the next many months and years.
Yeah, just looking at the NHL standings here, there you have the Predators at 56 points. The wild card spots occupied by Anaheim at 61, LA at 60. And there's the Winnipeg Jets, 9 points out of a playoff spot, 51 points. And they had, that game on Saturday, nice Saturday afternoon one in Florida. We talked about Scott O'Neill's comments after the Tampa game where it didn't go so well. And the Winnipeg Jets came out and played the game they needed to play and were able to pull off the comeback, get the win. And if the Winnipeg Jets, while their playoff hopes seem slim, they can go and try to keep other teams out of the playoffs. I think Florida really needed that one, needed to win against a team below them in the standings. And they're sitting now 59 points. And they're 8 point, like the two-time Stanley Cup champions back-to-back, 8 points out of the Buffalo Sabres. Crazy stuff, but nice performance, bounce back from the Jets.
Yeah, and Remis, it's actually interesting on the Florida side of things. The Sabres play the Panthers tonight, so that is a massive game for playoff seeding in the East. But what a game for the Jets, and specifically Eric Comrie. When Connor Hrabchak went out with the knee surgery, much maligned Eric Comrie stepped into the starting role, and in that time wasn't really playing up to his backup stats. And you take over the starting role and the team in front of you isn't playing that great. It's understandable. But Connor Hrabchak comes back, and then he gets the Toronto game where he gives up 6 goals, and the last one was a bad turnover on Eric Comrie's part. So for him to bounce back these last 3 starts for him has been really awesome to see. And Mike McIntyre, who we'll have on the show a little bit later on, had a tweet after that game on Saturday saying, in Eric Comrie's last 3 starts, he's 3-0, stopped 72 of 75 shots, has a 1 goals against average and a .960 save percentage. So good to see for Eric Comrie. After some struggles earlier in the season, that his last 3 starts have been awesome. Cole Perfetti, I thought, was the best Jets skater in that game. Tons of chances, rang one off the bar, finally got rewarded for it in the third period, scoring a goal. And then Gustav Nyquist gets a shift or a couple in the third with the top line, makes a nice play on the 3-on-2, and Mark Scheifele scores his team leading 27th goal of the season to give the Jets a 2-1 win. And it was just a nice comeback win in a season where there really haven't been many of them. We got used to the Jets always being in games and winning in dramatic fashion last season. This year, there hasn't been as much as that and that game was super fun. So shout out to Comrie. Perfetti, I thought, was awesome. And then Gustav Nyquist, who's projected to be in the lineup again tonight. I was joking that it was maybe a showcase game for him against the Florida Panthers. And look, in the third period, there he was in a 1-goal game, making a nice play off the 3-on-2 rush and giving the Jets the win there with Mark Scheifele's 27th.
You mentioned Cole Perfetti. Got off to a slow first couple months of the season. 4 points in 10 games in November, 3 points in 14 games in December, and 9 points in 16 in January. Pretty much, more than his point total for the first 2 months of the year. So looks like we're seeing an improved Perfetti, skating better, going to the hard areas. He's looking to build on February as it starts tonight in Dallas. But looking back on Saturday's game, here's Scott Arniel to Ken Wiebe and the media there in Florida after the win.
I thought we played a hell of a hockey game. I think we had some great looks in the first and second. Bobrovsky made some 10-bell saves. But I just like the way we competed. We stayed in it, kind of like I said the other day, nose to nose with those guys, and what you have to do, because if you back off, they're going to run you over. And I thought we just did a really good job of winning our share of puck battles. Did a good job of limiting what we gave up. I think we only gave up 7 or 8 5-on-5 chances. So at the end of the day, hung in there, played strong, got to the third period, and obviously, to score those 2 big goals was the key for us, and got some great goaltending from Combs too.
There's Scott Arniel after the game, and he talked more about Cole Perfetti, his goal, going to the hard areas.
And there was a few examples of that tonight that, with Florida, if you stay on the outside, you're not going to get much. And, obviously that goal, Gabe taking the net to start, Lau kind of crashing down in there, and then him coming in, if he doesn't go inside to find that rebound. And, that with Bobrovsky, he's pretty good at stopping the initial. It's those rebounds that, you got to go find those pucks. And that's what we did, and we got rewarded for it.
There's Scott Arniel after the game, Cole Perfetti, and they're talking about Cole Perfetti, and again, nice game from him. That's what you want to see. Gus Nyquist as well, a guy looking to do anything. You assume he's going to be traded at the deadline pending UFA, and what better to boost his value, Connor, than placing him a couple shifts with that top line?
Yeah, exactly. In the third period, and Scott Arniel talked about that a little bit as well, where, they hadn't scored in the game yet, and they're chasing a 1-goal deficit. So instead of Alex Iafallo on that top line, which had been struggling to generate offense, why not give Gustav Nyquist some bump-up shifts and some offensive zone face-offs with that line and with that grouping? And it paid off for the Jets. And hey, if it turns out, I was joking about it being a showcase game, if it turns out being that maybe he picks up some points here before the deadline and increases his value a little bit, great. Because I think he is one of those pending UFAs that we could see the Winnipeg Jets trade over the next month or so. But yeah, great to see him get back in. A player that hasn't been used to being healthy scratched in his career, had been healthy scratched 12 of the last 14 games coming into that one, and made an impact. I mean, there's no other way to put it. Even on the fourth line, he had some good shifts. And then when he was up there with the top line, the goal speaks for itself, but they were generating more offense throughout the game with Nyquist on that line in the third than Iafallo in the first 2 periods. So I like giving him some shifts with the top line, giving him some offensive players to work with, and credit to Nyquist for staying ready through all of those healthy scratches and making an impact in that game.
One player who continues to make an impact, Elias Salomonsson. Bit of a scary moment, shoved from behind into the boards, tested out the knee, came back. Him and Dylan Samberg are certainly growing as a defensive pair.
Certainly, Remis. And Elias Salomonsson has been incredibly impressive and just seemingly getting more and more comfortable by the game. And yeah, that was a scary moment where kind of in the danger zone for players where you're a foot or 2 feet away from the boards and you get hit and go kind of head first or shoulder first into the boards. And he looked shaken up, but seemed to be okay and came back in and bounced back. And again, this is the thing. Playing with Dylan Samberg, Salomonsson has had to go up against the other team's best. He's getting the toughest matchups. Even on home ice, Scott O'Neill hasn't changed his deployment in terms of how he's using Dylan Samberg versus whether he's with Neil Pionk or Elias Salomonsson. They're getting the toughest matchups at home. On the road, there's Matthew Tkachuk, Sam Bennett. These are the lines that he has to go up against. And I think he's holding his own very, very well. And as we approach the trade deadline, which is March 6th, Remis, it's going to be interesting to see how many and if any defensive pending UFA defensemen move for the Winnipeg Jets. And if that means Elias Salomonsson is up here for the rest of the season, I've been on this program before saying he should be. I'd love to see him get a run through the rest of the regular season and see what he can be, how ready he can be for next season to take an even bigger role. But in the big role he's been given this year, I thought he's looked great and looking more comfortable by the game.
Yeah, and this is the last week of the NHL regular season as they take a hiatus for the Olympics. The Winnipeg Jets playing on tonight in Dallas, Wednesday at home in the final game against Montreal. We will be there with the Winnipeg Sports Talk group, winnipegJets.com/WST for tickets. And Connor, the Jets are in Dallas tonight. Can we be there taking the practice? Seemed like a bit of an optional skate and not really expecting any line changes for this one from the way things started in the last game.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see how often they use those in-game tweaks, like putting Nyquist up at the top line for a shift in the offensive zone or one of those things. But yeah, I'll be staying tuned to Ken Wieb's Twitter, of course, for the lines and warm-up and see if they are the same as what they started against Florida. The way the Winnipeg Jets played and Scott O'Neill after the game saying he thought his team played a hell of a hockey game, I think is a great tell that they're going to go with the same lineup. And then instead of Eric Comrie in net, I think it's going to be, or at least it's projected to be, Connor Hrabchak getting back in the crease against a division rival on the road, all of those things. And we'll see how the Winnipeg Jets can fare against a Dallas team that is right up there at the top of the NHL standings. No one's really close to Colorado, but Dallas certainly up there in the top 5 and looking like a threat once again to make some noise in the playoffs.
Looking at the lines tonight, clean lines, plumbing, heating, electrical. Connor, Scheifele, Iafallo, Perfetti, Lowry, Vilardi, Niederreiter, Taves, Nemesnikov, Koepke, Barron, Nyquist, Morrissey, DeMello, Samberg, Salomonsson, Stanley, Schenn, Connor Hrabchak in goal, and Eric Comrie's numbers. They have been solid since Hrabchak returned. Well, since that in January, since that the Toronto game. And Jonathan Taves taking a step down to the third line. Got off to that hot start post-break, but you kind of saw this in November as the schedule got heavier, slowed down a bit, and he finds himself on the third line with Niederreiter and Nemesnikov.
Yeah, that is interesting, Remis, because coming out of the break, I think we could all agree, and we talked about it on the show, how revitalized he looked, and it looked like he gained a step, and the points were following, and the Jets' underlying numbers with him on the ice, like the shots and chances were all in their favor, and it looked like, okay, this is the Jonathan Taves that the Winnipeg Jets were hoping for this season, and now as the schedule picks up, they're on this road trip, they're nearing the holiday break, it looks like he's slowing down a little bit more as well. And that gets Adam Lowry up to the second line with Perfetti and Vilardi. And Gabriel Vilardi, Remis, how about that move on Sam Bennett to set up the Perfetti goal in the game against Florida? I think he's been so awesome this season. He's on pace for 30 goals, 41 assists, 71 points. He's going down to the second line and getting guys like Perfetti and Lowry going. So for year one of a 6-year extension for Gabe Vilardi, super impressed with what he's been able to do this season, and especially that move he put on Sam Bennett, who could be could be maybe on the short list for injury replacements for Team Canada at the Olympics.
Yeah, and I see a comment here from Derek Schmidt, who's in the press box. Tanner Pearson going in for Gus Nyquist. Seems like Cole Koepke, his speed has found himself a nice spot there on the fourth line alongside Morgan Barron.
Yeah, for sure. And Cole Koepke, we talked about this last week, Remis, when he was, starting to produce and scoring goals at a rate that we're not seeing from the rest of the Jets' bottom six. He brings the speed, the physicality, and the penalty killing that, could keep him in the lineup even if he wasn't producing, but he's still starting to produce and put goals in the net, which again has been very hard to come by for the Winnipeg Jets bottom nine really all season long. So as Scott O'Neill tweaks and tries to find the right line combinations for this team to click and for this team to get some offense up and down the lineup, I think Cole Koepke has kind of separated himself from the rest of the bunch when it comes to being a potential healthy scratch, both with the offensive production, which has been probably the best of all of the fourth liners so far this season outside of Morgan Barron, who's currently on the fourth line. But I mean, the speed, the physicality, the penalty killing, all of these things I think are real assets that the Jets maybe lack in, and Cole Koepke brings, and is a big reason why he should be in the lineup.
So looking forward to tonight's game. It's a Monday, not a prime game. This is a TSN game starting at 7:30. Jets, Stars, and Dallas. They had a bit of a lull there, but they're still one of the premier teams, I think, in the NHL, Connor.
100%, Remis. And they're a very top-heavy team. This is the thing with Dallas and really has been the last number of years as I flip open their lines. I mean, they have Rupe Hintz, Mikko Rantanen, Wyatt Johnson, Jason Robertson, all of these players. And you look at their bottom six, and Jamie Benn's there, Matt Duchene's there. Those players are a little bit older, maybe nearing the tail end of their careers. Their fourth line is nothing really amazing. On their defense, again, top-heavy. Esa Lindell, Miro Heiskanen, Thomas Harley. Three very strong defensemen, and Thomas Harley heading to Milan to play for Canada at the Olympics. And then their bottom three, Lundqvist, Petrovic, and Kyle Capobianco, a little bit more thin. So the Winnipeg Jets will look to feast on the bottom of Dallas's lineup because the top of their lineup is as good as anyone's in the NHL with Rantanen, Johnson, Hintz, and Robertson. Like I said, Jason Robertson, huge Team USA snub. Massive talking point amongst hockey Twitter these days, and how Jason Robertson and Cole Caulfield weren't selected for Team USA. So we'll see how he plays tonight against the Winnipeg Jets, and maybe even makes that talk a little bit louder online. And how did they not take this guy? But yeah, Dallas, they're always good. They're good every year. They're a contender for the Central every single year. And it's because of that star power. And Ken Wiebe, I saw he tweeted earlier, Jake Ottinger will get the start, another goalie for the U.S. at the Olympics. So we've got Hellebuyck versus Ottinger, the American goalies going up against one another. Swayman got in a fight yesterday. Lots happening with Dallas and around the NHL.
Dallas, 73 points in 55 games, sitting third in the Central, just behind Minnesota with a game in hand. Although Dallas, I mean, they got 27 regulation wins. Minnesota sitting with 21, showing you how much the overtime wins are certainly gaming the point totals. You mentioned the snubs or Olympic watch for a player like Jason Robertson. We're kind of on watch here for Team Canada. Braden Point, he hasn't played. I don't think he's really practiced since that knee injury, and they haven't announced a replacement. I'm going to assume he's going to go unless otherwise stated. But Anthony Cirelli leaving the Stadium Series game yesterday with an injury. Again, I haven't seen the updates today, but I wonder who would replace Anthony Cirelli if he can't go. So Team Canada, some injury questions here heading into the final week of the NHL season before the break.
Totally. And I know people are wondering about Mark Scheifele and his chances. I think Mark Scheifele has a better chance being on Team Canada if Braden Point misses the tournament than if Anthony Cirelli misses the tournament. And I think if Anthony Cirelli is not there for Team Canada, I think that's like Sam Bennett. I hope you got travel insurance, because I think that's the most obvious replacement for Anthony Cirelli. We debated that when they announced the roster. Bennett versus Cirelli, both that like fourth line grinder, penalty killing, all defense and skill kind of option for this team. And I think, that's obviously why John Cooper was bringing Cirelli in the first place. And if he does have to miss the tournament, I think Sam Bennett is just a natural replacement for Cirelli to come in and be that penalty killing fourth line grinder type. But if Point misses, I think that's where it gets interesting for Mark Scheifele. That's kind of the top 6 skilled guy that Scheifele could absolutely step in and be for Team Canada. Zach Hyman had a great month of January playing with Connor McDavid. Do they opt to just go with the chemistry guy? Wyatt Johnston, we'll see tonight for the Dallas Stars, was another guy on the snub list for Team Canada. So I think the Point one opens the door more for Mark Scheifele if he was to miss the tournament. The Cirelli one, I think, is the most obvious, just Sam Bennett replacement. Remo, I don't know if you agree with me on that or not.
No, I think that's definitely fair, and we were surprised that Sam Bennett was not named to the list based on what he did at the Four Nations last year, what he did for the Panthers in the Stanley Cup playoffs, winning the Conn Smythe Trophy, but not enough for Team Canada. So we'll have more hockey discussion as the show goes on, but we do have to move to the Bombers. Taylor Allen will be joining us shortly. But Connor, the Bombers making a big splash here. Have to be very excited about what they've done so far to open free agency. Announced yesterday they're agreed to terms with Jarrell Broxton, offensive line, and Jake Serezna, defensive line. Other moves, Tommy Neild at receiver, and Jonathan Moxey out. Jareth Stearns goes to Montreal. Demerio Houston, DB, goes to Ottawa. And additionally, Taylor Allen did report that Dalton Schoen will not be signing, or the Bombers will not be offering a contract to him as he recovers from an ACL tear. So your thoughts on the Bombers, start to free agency before we bring in Taylor Allen?
Yeah, Remis. I mean, I'm so pumped with all of these signings because when they got Tim White and he was released early by the Hamilton Tiger Cats, we said, okay, now they have Wilson, Dembski, and White at wide receiver. That was a big area of need, but you bring in a consistent guy who's had 70 catches, 1,000 yards, 7 touchdowns in each of the last 4 seasons. Like, he's very consistent. So that's not maybe like it's over for the wide receiver group, but that maybe allowed you to spend a little bit more and look a little bit more on the trenches, at corner, all of these positions that the Bombers were clearly lacking in last season. And they came out swinging on free agency. I mean, Jarrell Broxton, number 1 free agent per 3 Down Nation, 2nd highest rated tackle last season per Pro Football Focus, behind only Jamarcus Hardrick. And he had a CFL best 2.4% pressure rate. That's how many, pass blocking reps are you giving up a pressure? 2% for Broxton. He's a left tackle. Who's going to play right tackle? Bryant or him is a big question. I'm sure we'll be talking about when Bombers training camp opens. But anytime you get the number 1 free agent on the market, that's a massive win. When it comes at a position of need for the Bombers on an offensive line, that's an even bigger win. So love that signing. I mean, how could you not? Like I said, number 1 free agent. Jake Serezna. John Hodge wrote a great article about his injury last season. He had a kind of a meniscus tear, but could play through it because it went undetected in his initial MRI. Kind of a bizarre situation. But then his season later ended. He could play through it at a time, but it got to a point where he couldn't play anymore. But that really kind of slowed him down last season. The couple seasons before that, he was awesome. I mean, he was, he played really well in the Grey Cup against the Bombers in Vancouver when the Argonauts won that one. Couple years before with Edmonton, he's been the 6th highest rated D lineman in 2023 and 2024 per PFF, 3rd highest pass rush grade in 2024 per PFF as well. It's a 2-year deal for Serezna. So like the trenches were a massive point of emphasis for this team, and they go and get the best offensive lineman on the market and potentially the best defensive lineman on the market as well, both with 2-year deals. Not sure how you can't be pumped about that. They also need corner. They get Moxey, who is the 5th highest rated corner in the CFL last season per PFF. Tommy Neild, wide receiver, 6'3" Canadian. They called him Touchdown Tommy in Saskatchewan last season. You can never have too many Canadian wide receivers, so that's a massive win. And I think there's upside there. He's only 26 years old. And like I said, 6'3". I remember, if I remember correctly, I do, burned the Bombers for a long touchdown in the Labor Day Classic last year. So hopefully he can flip that around, score some big touchdowns on the Riders. And yeah, I mean, this to me, Remis, is an absolute home run for the blue and gold, just all the positions that they addressed in free agency.
Yeah, we'll talk more about it with Taylor Allen of the Winnipeg Free Press. We'll also get into the curling, the Scotties, and looking ahead to the Olympic curling as well. So that's coming up right after this. But first, here's a message from Hustler.
During these cold winter days and you're looking for things to do, might I suggest you head down and see our friends at Uptown Alley at 1301 St. Matthews Avenue. Well, it's cold outside. Things are heating up on the lanes at Uptown Alleys with tons of 5-pin lanes, 10-pin lanes, and an incredible state-of-the-art arcade, and so much more for both group parties, corporate events, or just getting together with your gang or the family to kill some time when it's a little bit tough to be outside. Uptown Alley has incredible food and beverage options as well. So it's a great place to spend an evening, spend a day, grab something to eat, and have a heck of a lot of fun. It is the perfect place for birthday parties for kids, teens, or adults. And their event staff will take care of your group or corporate event and make it so easy. All you do is decide what activities you want, what you're going to be eating, any add-ons, and their event staff will take care of everything else. You can find out more information on all of it at uptownalley.ca. Give them a call at 488-0000. And don't forget, 7 days a week, their bowl and play special after 9 p.m., $20.49 for 90 minutes of 5-pin bowling and a $10 arcade card. Well, it's cold outside. Heat things up on the lanes at Uptown Alley. Our friends at Roley's Transfer are ready to help you make that move in 2026. If you will be moving, there's a lot of stress that goes on with it. Well, Roley's, family-owned and operated for over 60 years, and the most trusted name in moving in Manitoba, has been lessening the stress for their clients now into their 7th decade. Check out their website at roleys.com. You can click on request an estimate, put in the promo code WST for a special discount on moving services and moving supplies, and then let them know when and where you're planning on moving and what needs to be moved. And the friendly staff at Roley's will turn around quickly with a great quote and get you locked in for the white glove treatment that they've been famous for over 60 years. For all your moving needs, lean on Roley's Transfer, the most trusted name in the game. Find out more today online at roleys.com. Do have to shout out our friends at St. Vital Dental Center. Of course, they've been serving generations of Winnipeggers and Manitobans in St. Vital for years. And now our pal Dr. Terry and his great staff have a beautiful new facility at 167 St. Anne's with state-of-the-art equipment and convenient free parking right behind the building. They do it all for clients from 6 months to 99 plus with a full array of dental services from cleanings and checkups to things like dental implants. Whatever your dental needs, they're there for you. And if it's been a little while since you've been to the dentist, better you do it proactively as opposed to when it just hurts too much and you got to get in there. For all your dental needs, head on over to St. Vital Dental Center. Tell them the boys at Winnipeg Sports Talk sent you. Find out more. Book online today for an appointment at stviteldental.ca. And hey, football season feels like it's not just around the corner, but you know, the snow's going to melt. We'll be back at Princess Auto Stadium, cheersing each other with Canadian Club, the official Canadian whiskey and official spirit of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. But while you might be staying at home a little bit more these days, pop by your local Manitoba liquor marts and get Canada's iconic Canadian whiskey, the good stuff, since 1848 at your local Manitoba liquor marts. And when you're at your local beer store, make sure to keep your eyes out for remaining stock of the amazing limited edition Canadian Club Cranberry Ginger Ale, which was such a big hit over the holiday season. Available in 4-packs and 473 milliliter singles at Liquor Mart locations and your local beer stores as well.
Pleased to be joined by Taylor Allen of the Winnipeg Free Press. Taylor, pretty busy Sunday for you with all the Bombers and CFL Free Agency and also the Scotty. Looking forward to getting into all of it. How are you doing here?
The CFL would start their window on a different day. I mean, come on, the Scotties was an action-packed day, and of course for us here in Manitoba with 2 local teams in the final. So my head was spinning all day, but you know, it was a fun day and memorable day for sure.
It's funny. I was joking to myself, what am I going to do with no Saturday Night Football? But the Scotties was incredible drama, and we also had the NHL Stadium Series. But let's start with the Bombers. Big splash, free agency. Where did you want to start? On Broxton at offensive line or Serezna on D-line? 2 big signings to complement the signing of Tim White that happened last week.
Yeah, absolutely. I think lots of people are thinking, like, where was this last year? The Bombers hosted the Grey Cup last year, and I think people were really expecting them to make a big push and splash in free agency, and they didn't really. And now this year, I guess they maybe learned from their mistake, and they're ponying up the cash and signing some really big names. So, if you're a Bomber fan, I think you have to be pretty thrilled with how free agency has started so far. And, it's kind of funny. The other week, honestly, it's kind of rolling my eyes a little bit because it seemed like they were just going to be bringing back everybody and trotting out the exact same team from last year. And I was like, I don't know. Like, I don't think you can expect to sell out every game a second year in a row, just bringing back the entire squad. But, they left a few openings, I guess. And, they made most of them with Broxton and, of course, Serezna. So, maybe starting with Broxton. I mean, many people had him as the number one guy out there on the market. I mean, he was an all-star left tackle last year with the BC Lions. It'll be interesting to see if he goes to right tackle, because Stanley Bryant, obviously the Bombers have him back for 2026, and he's the longtime left tackle there. So that's a good problem to have. I don't think it really matters who goes left or right. I think the Bombers are in good shape with those two guys. And the bread and butter of the Bombers for years has been that O-line. And obviously last year they took a step back. They weren't great. They had to make a move there. And, Broxton is a massive addition. And I think the team really learned just how important Jamarcus Hrabchak was to this team when they let him go to Saskatchewan a few years back, and they haven't been able to fill that void up until now. So, I'm sure Bomber fans and probably Zach Collaros more than anyone is very excited about the Broxton signing for sure.
Yeah, Broxton last year per PFF, right up there in all of the pass rush or pass blocking grades and all of those things with Jamarcus Hrabchak. So this is definitely a quality signing on the O-line. Going to the defensive line edition, Jake Serezna, great in 2023 and 2022 and the past 3 years before last year. Last year played through a bit of a knee injury and then suffered a knee injury and needed surgery. How safe is a bounce back for Jake Serezna in blue and gold next season, excuse me?
Yeah, well, I mean, it went down to the wire with Jake. I mean, the Bombers weren't 100% sure if they were going to get him. I mean, Ottawa made a big push for him as well, so they were kind of going back and forth before ultimately he decided on Winnipeg. And I mean, of course, there's a bit of risk there. I mean, they're paying him a lot of money, and like you said, he's coming off of a knee surgery and whatnot. But if you follow Jake Serezna on Instagram, I mean, he's posting some pretty crazy workout videos, and he makes it sound like he's pretty confident that he's going to, prove that he's still the same player, if not better. So, I definitely get that there would be some cause for concern there. But, I mean, it's obvious that the Bombers wanted to get better in the trenches, O-line and D-line. I mean, James Vaughters, he was a fine player for the Bombers, but, not a massive difference maker. But Jake Serezna is a guy that has a chance to be that for this team. I mean, you look, before last year, the 3 years before that, I think he had 30 sacks combined in those 3 seasons. So this is a guy who gets after the quarterback. And, the way the Bombers play defense, they usually have 3 guys kind of pass rushing, and they have so many guys, back in the secondary and whatever. So just the way the defense is, that it doesn't really lead to too many sacks. But who knows? Maybe Jordan Younger will change that a little bit, having a guy like Jake Serezna, obviously paired with Willie Jefferson on that D line now as well.
Check out I'm showing the workout video here, Taylor, of Serezna on Instagram. So I'm sure he's going to get a couple follows from this. You mentioned it seemed like the Bombers were just going to run it back, re-signing a lot of guys. Was it the Rough Riders winning the Grey Cup at Investors Group Field that pushed them to say, hey, we need to take a big swing here, because, who knows how much longer, some of these guys are going to be in the league and going to be on the Bombers?
I think the fans and media obviously make a big deal of, their arch rival winning the Grey Cup on their home field. But I don't think that changed anything for the Bombers. I mean, I think they probably do have some regrets as to how they handled last offseason. I mean, you let Tyrell Ford and Kenny Lawler go, and you don't really bring anyone in to really replace those guys. I mean, the guys that they signed last year around this time, Payne Logan, Dylan Mitchell, ended up doing nothing for the team, right? And that ended up costing them. And of course, there were some injuries and stuff too along the way. But yeah, they have a strong core, a strong nucleus, but they needed to add some talent to that, and they didn't do that last year. So, yeah, I think, the moves that they made, I mean, they're absolutely back to being a contender. I mean, the status quo, I think they would have been back to being, or they would have been a 3-seed or 4-seed in the West again, and that's not going to cut it. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't think what the Riders did really changed anything for them, but yeah, I think they made it clear though that they did learn from their mistakes last offseason.
Looking at some of the other reported signings that they've made over the past couple of days, they bring in Tommy Neeld from the Rough Riders, a wide receiver, Canadian, Jonathan Moxey, a corner from the Tiger Cats, and then Tim White, of course. Jared Stearns, Demario Houston are elsewhere in free agency, and then you're reporting that Dalton Schoen, the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, won't be bringing him back. How big of an upgrade do you see Neeld, Moxey, and White over Stearns, Houston, and Schoen at the same positions?
Well, I mean, if Dalton Schoen was healthy, I mean, it wouldn't be an upgrade at all, because when he is healthy, or when he was healthy, he was arguably the best receiver in the league. So it's really unfortunate that after, 2 sensational years where it looked like this was going to be a guy who was going to be on the team's Ring of Honor one day, that he suffered back-to-back torn ACLs. And, the sad thing about it is, you talk to guys on the team like Brady Oliveira, for example, and they'll tell you that Dalton's a guy that does everything right. Like, he takes so good care of his body and everything like that. And it's just really bad luck. So, yeah, unfortunately, I got word that it sounds like he's not going to be ready until the fall. So, I mean, you can't wait around until September, October for a guy to get healthy. And then I'm sure it will be a bit hard for him to exactly hit the ground running. So, yeah, who knows? I mean, maybe if the Bombers are in need of a pass catcher later in the year, maybe they can call up Dalton and bring him in. I wouldn't rule that out. It does sound like he's probably not going to sign anywhere this offseason. It's probably going to be a signing once he is healthy. But yeah, it's nice to see though that he does want to keep playing and get back on the field, because obviously he's a hell of a player and he's a lot of heart too. So if there's one guy that could come back from back-to-back torn ACLs, it probably is Dalton Schoen. But, yeah, I mean, it goes without saying, though, that the Bombers need to upgrade their receivers. I mean, Ontario Wilson and Nick Dembski is a great 1-2 punch, but they did need to add a little bit to that. I mean, that was probably one of their weakest spots on the team last year was receiver. I mean, they got Ontario midway through the year, then Dembski was hurt down the stretch there. So, yeah, they definitely needed some more playmakers. And Tim White, a guy who churns out 1,000-yard seasons like nothing, is massive. And then touchdown Tommy Neeld, I mean, a fan favorite in Regina, caught the game-winning touchdown in the West Finals. So you can never have too many strong Canadian receivers. So yeah, I mean, his name kind of got lost in the shuffle a little bit yesterday because there was so many big signings. But I think Tommy Neeld's the guy that Bomber fans will probably be a big fan of next year for sure.
Yeah. So yesterday, day one, opening day of the tampering period, where it's reported that all these deals are agreed to and will be officially signed once this window ends. So are the Bombers done, or are there other areas they're looking to improve on or looking to add players for?
Well, I think they spent around like $1 million yesterday, so I'm sure Wade Miller would like them to be done and stop the spending spree. But yeah, I would imagine from here maybe just some depth pieces here and there. I don't think another Jarrell Broxton type signing is on the way for this team. And honestly, there really isn't many spots left on this team, really. I mean, they're pretty much set across the board for the most part. So, yeah, I think yesterday was the big day, and I don't think nothing will be able to top that.
Looking back on yesterday, then, if that's the big day, do you think the Bombers were right in prioritizing the trenches as much as they did with Broxton and Serezna? I think 3 Down Nation had Broxton as the number 1 free agent. They had Serezna as number 6. Do you think that was the number one thing, the trenches on both sides of the ball, that they needed to address, and they did that?
Absolutely. I mean, we'll start with the D-line. I mean, since Jackson Jeffcoat retired, that D-line hasn't been the same. Like I said, James Vaughters was pretty solid for them, and they've had guys like Celestin Haba and, other guys like that, at D-line for them. But Willie Jefferson has been missing that true partner in crime for a while. So Jake Serezna getting him is massive, obviously. And, you look at the rest of the defense. I mean, every year the Bombers seem to do a really good job at finding some young guys in the secondary that can play. So I don't think that's a spot that they feel like they need to spend a ton of money at, because they've done a good job, finding rookies and whatnot that can play back there for them, like Cam Allen, for example, their new safety last year. And then on the O-line, I mean, like I said, that group needed to get better, and that's a hard group to get better, because every team in the league is always looking for O-linemen, and there's always a market for those guys. But, Broxton, I think the underrated part of this signing is, let's say Stanley only has one more year, and he could play more than that, honestly. Like, despite the fact that he's going to be 40 years old pretty soon, there hasn't been much of a drop-off, which is pretty crazy to think about. But, let's say this is Stanley's last year. Well, now you have his replacement waiting in the wings, because before this signing, there really wasn't that guy. It was like, okay, well, once Stanley goes, it's like, who's going to, be protecting their quarterback's blind side? And well, now they probably have that answer in Broxton. So, Kendall Randolph, I mean, he was okay at right tackle for the team last year, but he got quite a few penalties, and he wasn't the best. So yeah, those are two premier positions in football at any level. So the fact that they were able to get two guys in both those spots, and there were spots of needs for this team, really. I keep saying it, but it was massive. Both massive signings.
So Kyle Walters addressing areas of need, looking around the league. Can we raise the offseason champions banner for the blue and gold? Are they the big winners of yesterday? What else stood out to you from the opening day of the CFL negotiation window?
I don't think you want to be the offseason champs. I mean, it feels like every year the team that does raise the offseason championship banner, they end up being a massive bust. So I don't think Bomber fans wanna take or get that label. But honestly, it's kind of hard not to give them at least a B plus or even A plus would be great for what they did yesterday. Lots of teams, they made some signings and whatever, but BC, they lost a couple pieces. I think, it'll be interesting to see how they, where they go from here. They've been on the doorstep of trying to get to the Grey Cup for several years now, and it hasn't happened. And, losing their star left tackle certainly didn't do them any favors. And then James Waters, mentioned him a few times. He sounds like he's going to Saskatchewan, so that's a little boost for the Riders. But they've lost a few guys too, a few receivers. They lost AJ Allen, one of their most important guys on defense. So yeah, the Bombers got better, but I'm not so sure if the Lions and the Riders did. And that's good news for Winnipeg, because those are the two teams that they're chasing.
Taylor, I'm talking to you from the car because you were just at the airport welcoming home Carrie Einarson. It was a big Manitoba versus Manitoba final. What can you say about her performance after losing on Saturday big to Caitlin Laws, coming back and making the final, and then taking it in dramatic fashion last night on TSN?
Yeah, I was just at the airport to greet a very tired team, Carrie Einarson. They had a flight at 8 a.m. Toronto time. So Carrie was saying they slept for maybe an hour last night, because of course they're up late, relishing their victory, and their family was there, and their phones are blowing up and whatnot. So they were pretty tired this morning. So I felt kind of bad shoving a recorder in their faces for interviews. But no, what a game. Right. I mean, for starters, just so cool. So nice to see two Manitoba teams in that final, of course. Unfortunately, someone had to lose. I mean, Caitlin Laws, I think everyone's heart's a little broken for her. Obviously, I mean, they were undefeated. They beat Carrie twice. They smacked Carrie pretty good earlier in the week, and to lose in extra ends like that, that's devastating. And Caitlin Laws, she's only won the Scotties once before, which is kind of hard to believe, despite her Hall of Fame resume. And Kristen and Selena, they're still searching for their first Scotties, and they used to play with Carrie. And Laura Walker, she's been a replacement on Carrie's team before. So there were just so many layers to that game and whatever. And that wasn't lost on Carrie either. I was talking to her about that today, and she definitely felt for the other side, especially since she knows all those ladies so well. But yeah, I mean, Carrie Einarson, I mean, of course, the talk of the curling nation has been Rachel Homan these past few years, but Carrie Einarson made a massive statement yesterday. I mean, that shot she made in the 10th end, that is not a gimme. I was asking her about that, and I said to her, when you're growing up, curling in Gimli and you're by yourself, like, is that the type of shot that you imagine in your head, making a shot like that on that kind of stage? And she said, honestly, I don't imagine making a shot that hard. I usually imagine making a shot a lot easier than that. So I think she almost kind of surprised herself for a little bit there. But yeah, I mean, 5-time Scotties champion, Carrie Einarson. I mean, she's solidified herself as one of the greatest Canadian curlers of all time. And, I think that this team is prepared to go on a run at Worlds.
I was going to say, like, where does this run rank? And I mean, how well positioned is she now going forward at the Worlds?
Yeah, I mean, Carrie actually said this morning to me that this might be one of their sweetest victories at the Scotties. I mean, you look at these past, 2 or so years, there's been a lot going on with this team. And, Rachel Homan kind of taking over the curling scene and whatnot. But yeah, I mean, I think after everything they've been through these last few years and, the whole Brienne situation, which, we don't need to get into, obviously, but and Shannon Burchard's knee injury and bringing Carly on board. I mean, I think some people were maybe thinking like, okay, well, this is the end of this team. Certainly they're going to blow it up this offseason. And now after this, maybe, I don't know if you could say that. I mean, they look really good. And, just earlier this month in Steinbach, they made the Grand Slam final there with a field that featured basically a bunch of teams that are going to the Olympics. So, yeah, I mean, they have kind of, in years past, they haven't fared super well at the Worlds. I mean, anytime you wear the maple leaf at Worlds, people are expecting gold, and that's kind of not really fair because the rest of the world has caught up, if not exceeded us, because, I mean, they get more funding, lots of these countries and whatnot, their curling teams. But no, like, honestly, I would not be surprised whatsoever if Carrie's there on the last day at Worlds and playing in that final, and it's in Calgary as well. Now, on a sheet of ice that they are no strangers to. They've won the Scotties there before and whatnot, so that could give them some familiarity. And Val Sweeting, lives down the road from Calgary as well. So yeah, I think they're going to be pretty confident and comfortable in Calgary for Worlds for sure.
And finally, just sticking with the curling beat, Olympics kicking off this week. Is this the year Rachel Homan gets it done? And how about Canada's chances on the men and also mixed up? They got mixed as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think anyone would be silly to bet against Rachel Homan. But I mean, if there is one knock on her career, it's the fact that she has not done well at the Olympics. But if she can get a gold medal in Italy, I mean, I know we're in the city of Jennifer Jones, but if Rachel Homan gets a gold medal at the Olympics, I think that might solidify her as the GOAT of Canadian curling. So yeah, the pressure's on her, and I think her team knows that. But I mean, they've had the pressure these past few years going into every event that they've played as the heavy favorites, and they've basically won 99% of them, right? So yeah, I will not be betting against the Rachel Homan anytime soon. But that's a stacked field. I mean, don't forget about Silvana Tiranzoni of Switzerland. I mean, she's never won a gold medal either. So, and this is probably her last cycle, or it is going to be her last cycle. So that'll be a team that I wouldn't be surprised if they're on top of the podium either. And then on the men's side, I mean, Brad Jacobs, been there, done that, right? I mean, he said after the curling trials that he's at a point in his career now where he's at peace and he doesn't feel any pressure at all because he's kind of achieved everything that he wants to achieve in the sport. So, if that's true and he's in Italy and he's just, and he's feeling confident and he doesn't feel the pressure and he doesn't feel the moment getting to him, then yeah, I could absolutely see him winning it. But let's not forget about who the world number one is, and that's Bruce Mowat of Scotland. I mean, he is sensational. And I mean, for example, like Scotland, for example, that is a country that really funds their curling program. Those guys get to curl together Monday through Friday full time. That's their job. Like, that's a huge advantage. Whereas Canadians, like, we don't have that luxury. We don't have that funding for these teams. So yeah, wouldn't be surprised to see Brad win, but I mean, Bruce is definitely the favorite there.
Well, Taylor, it was great chopping it up with you, talking Bombers, a little curling. Looking forward to the Olympics coming up as well, and hopefully we can connect again down the road. I appreciate you taking the time here from the post-airport visit there.
You bet. Thanks for having me, guys. Appreciate it.
Don't forget, gang, right now is a great time to jump online or pop by Red River Co-op or London Drugs and grab your tickets for this St. Boniface Hospital Mega Million Choices Lottery. Of course, you can get them in person or order online at stbmegamillionchoices.ca, and you'll be in for everything. First deadline for the winter bonus is January 29th. The second deadline for the ultimate bonus is February the 20th. And of course, in addition to all the incredible early bird prizes with more than $500,000 in prize draws and winners, including the biggest ever bonus and the all-new World Cup experience prize package worth over $10,000 in Vancouver, you'll be in for one of the 6 grand prize options. 5 $1.5 million dream home packages in Winnipeg and Vancouver Island, or $1.25 million cash tax-free. How does that sound? It's all in support of the incredible work of the St. Boniface Hospital, both equipment and research, and makes such a big difference in our community. So pop by, get your tickets right now. Count yourself in. The earlier, the better, to be in for all the early draws and the biggest ever bonus. And maybe you can be Manitoba's next millionaire while supporting the St. Boniface Hospital. Again, online, get your tickets, stbmegamillionchoices.ca. And you can also order toll-free at 1-855-256-7203. Do want to thank our friends at Princess Auto for their support of Winnipeg Sports Talk. Of course, Princess Auto is synonymous with Winnipeg, headquartered in the Peg, founded right here, and now serving Canadians coast to coast. And with 3 Manitoba locations, 2 in the city and 1 out in Brandon, where you'll find the best deals on the most unique assortment of tools and equipment around. Everything you need to complete the projects on your list or start something new is at Princess Auto. So pop by and see him on Panet Road, Portage Avenue West, or out in Brandon. And as always, you can shop online 24/7, 365 over at princessauto.com. I know it's cold. I know we're in the middle of winter, but I do know some folks that are loving every minute of it. And that, of course, is our pals over at Chud's Power Sports in Gimli, Manitoba's power sports superstore for over 80 years, family owned, with the best staff in the business that have been there with decades. Now, they have it all at Chud's Power Sports. Of course, snowmobiles, golf courts, pontoons, farming equipment. But right now, it's all about the sleds and the trails. Snow day deals on right now from Polaris, up to $3,000 off select snowmobiles and up to $4,000 off Polaris select off-road vehicles as well, including financing as low as 0% APR. Check out their great new website at chudspowersports.com, which will tell you all about everything that they've got going on, from snowmobiles to timber sled snow bikes, or maybe you're already starting to think about spring and summer with RVs, or heck, we got ice fishing season coming up too with ice shacks. They have it all at Chud's Power Sports. And as I mentioned, with the best staff that'll help you get exactly what you need at amazing deals as well. While you're on the website, top right corner, you'll see the link for e-commerce store. That will take you to truenorthparts.ca, their sister site, with the best in parts for whatever you need. And of course, amazing deals on clearance gear and accessories. And it's all waiting for you up in Gimli at the corner of Highway 8 and 231. Chud's Power Sports, Manitoba's leader for 80 years. See him in Gimli or shop online today at chudspowersports.com. And with the deep freeze here, it is maybe overdue for you to call up Donnie and the gang at Manitoba Battery to help you out, to make sure your car is getting from point A to point B. There's nobody that does it better than Manitoba Battery when it comes to customer service and price on batteries for literally everything. Now, we'll wait for the toys for the summer, because right now it's about making it through this Manitoba winter. And of course, if you do need a battery, or you're wondering whether it's going to make it through, you can pop by either of the locations on Logan Avenue or Dovercourt Drive for a free battery testing. And if you need a new one, you'll get one for the best price in town, shopping local and beating the pants off the big box stores with price and customer service as well. Manitoba Battery will also deliver batteries anywhere inside the perimeter. If you need it, Pop by and see him in store today or shop online and get your boost from Donnie and the gang at Manitoba Battery online at manitobabattery.com.
All right, there's Huss. He's in Costa Rica. He'll be back on Wednesday. Thanks again to Taylor Allen from the Winnipeg Free Press for that great conversation on the Bombers and their offseason, their free agency, all the reported signings that'll become official on February 10th. Let's keep it Free Press themed and go to the guy that's going to Italy, going to the Olympics in a couple of days. Mike McIntyre from the Winnipeg Free Press joins us now in WST. Mike, how you doing?
I'm doing great, Connor. Packing is in full effect. I leave tomorrow, Tuesday afternoon, touchdown in, there's a 7-hour time difference. So I get to Milan Wednesday afternoon, Milan time, which I guess will be Wednesday morning, Winnipeg time. This is going to take some getting used to, this 7-hour difference. I was kind of making up a tentative schedule of what I'm going to be covering, and sort of weird to be putting 7 a.m. hockey game down on my list, because I'm relating it to what time it's going to be back here in Winnipeg, and as it pertains to things like newspaper deadlines and that. But in that sense, I'll have lots of time to file the deadline since I'm going to be ahead of time. But yeah, looking forward to it. Obviously, hockey will be taking center stage, but I'm going to be dipping my toes into some other events as well, and some real fun, cool stories lined up with some local connections, that sort of thing. But obviously, the watching the NHLers in action will be the main event. And I gotta think, Connor, if you're an Olympian and you only have 1 or 2 games left this week, how much are you holding your breath, thinking just don't get hurt, don't look at Anthony Cirelli yesterday, right? I mean, there's a guy goes down, and we haven't heard yet an update on him, but this has to be hold your breath territory. And then on the flip side, if you're a guy that's on the standby list, I can't even imagine what that's like right now. Because in one hand, you've probably got plane tickets to some, to Mexico or some Caribbean island or something that you're going to go away. But on the other hand, you're willing to cancel that at the last moment should an opening arise. So, yeah, a lot of nervous times here, I'm sure, for the men's hockey players.
Yeah, in terms of Anthony Cirelli, I hope Sam Bennett has cancelable flights because I think he is the most obvious Cirelli replacement. We'll get to the Olympics in a moment, Mike. I want to talk to you about, some of the stories that you're working on there. But first, I want to go back to yesterday before we talk about the Jets, the Stadium Series, the outdoor goalie fight, John Cooper's outfit. I mean, this was one of the greatest outdoor games of all time, in my opinion. It was awesome.
Absolutely, it was. You might know the number, Connor. I saw it thrown out there. How many outdoor games there been? Is it
45? I think
45. Yeah.
I
honestly, other than a handful of them, obviously a couple involving the Jets, most of them, you kind of forget about them almost as quickly as they happen, right? I dare say we won't be forgetting about this one for a while, for a lot of reasons. Like you said, the outfits were. I mean, kudos
incredible
to everybody for kind of going all in, and John Cooper leading the way. I just hope John Cooper packs that outfit to Italy.
Yeah.
Might we see him chomping on a cigar? Was it John Muckler? There was a coach years ago, back when, smoking was everywhere. Glenn Sather used to chomp on the cigar when he was the GM up in the press box. But yeah, that was tremendous. The kind of theatrics surrounding the game. Obviously, the game itself delivered with, it looked like it was going to be a blowout, and then an epic comeback. And hey, that's what happens when you put, the 2 most penalized teams in the league. Although it was pretty one-sided in terms of the calls. When's the last time a team got 7 straight power plays in a game? You watch enough hockey and you're like, okay, game management says after a couple, the next one's going to the other team. Well, that didn't happen. And I know Boston fans are up in arms thinking that the fix is in. But my goodness, the game delivered, and a goalie fight. I mean, that was just great theatrics. All of it it was just a lot of fun. And yeah, kudos to everybody for embracing it. Like, imagine if you were a relatively new hockey viewer or a brand new one, and that was your introduction to the game. The bar has been set pretty high, for sure.
Yeah, no doubt about that. And yeah, I'm so glad they played into the whole pirate theme, and the outfits were awesome. And like you said, I'd like to think that the goalie fight changed momentum, but in reality, Boston just took like a million penalties, and it was only a matter of time before Tampa took advantage. And yeah, that was an awesome game. Let's move on to the local hockey club, the Winnipeg Jets. They were in Florida. There were no goalie fights in their win, their 2-1 win over the Panthers. But Eric Comrie was awesome. 27 out of 28 shots that he stopped. What did you see from the Jets win in Florida? A rare comeback third period win for a team that's been struggling to do that so far this season, Mike.
Yeah, and I mean, look, the Jets probably are not winning the Stanley Cup this year, let's face it. But fans can perhaps rejoice a little bit in the fact that they may have helped put the final nail in the Florida Panthers, aka Paul Maurice's quest for a third straight Stanley Cup, because, you know, the Panthers were just as desperate, if not more desperate, than the Jets for 2 points in that game. And frankly, I expected a lot more out of Florida. Like, I don't know if people realize what happened the game before, that Florida had just played 2 nights earlier against St. Louis, where they gave up, it was a tie game, and they gave up the winning goal with 9 seconds left in regulation, a game that they should have at least got 1 point, if not 2, and they get none. And, you know, then to blow a third period lead as they did, granted it was just the 1 goal, but against the Jets, like Florida, they're in huge trouble, and I just don't see them crawling out of an enormous hole now. So I guess that in that sense, Jets fans can rejoice a little bit. But, you know, say this about Winnipeg, and I think anybody that's watched this team, Connor, you'd probably agree as well. Like, for all of Winnipeg's faults, for all the flaws, for all the things that haven't gone wrong, I think one thing you can confidently say about this group is they haven't quit. Mm-hmm. They're not just going through the motions, and that's a good sign. You know, it says that players still care. I know there's some fans who now are at the point where they don't want to see the team win. I put this on Twitter the other day when some fan asked about, you know, the team and going through the motions or whatever, and I said, and ruining a draft pick, and I said, I can assure you, there's not any player in that room that cares about where the Jets draft and wanting a higher draft pick. You know, players, that these guys are fiercely competitive. They're proud athletes, and they want to win. And so a game like that, I suppose in some ways, probably only adds to the frustration of this season, Connor, because you see the Jets play a game like that, you know, just as we've seen them go into Minnesota a couple of weeks ago and dominate there. You know, that really good game against Washington earlier this season. When they have performances like that, they remind you of last year's Jets team. And it sort of says, like, my goodness, if they could just do that more often, they'd be in a much better spot. And that's the burning question around this team. Why haven't we seen more games like that? And, you know, I think we've heard from Scott Arniel and company enough that that's been a constant source of frustration, that the consistency just isn't there. But certainly the Jets showed that they're not just going to roll over. They're not just going to kind of go through the motions in these final, I guess now 26, 27 games, including tonight. And, you know, they are capable when they're on their game, when they play to their defensive structure. And that was the thing that impressed me the most the other day. They really made it tough for Florida to generate much of anything. And maybe more than anything, that's what reminded me of last year's Jets, just that attention to defensive detail, that structure. It was impressive. And, you know, we'll see if they can do it again. And maybe it's a good thing that they have another, in this case, a team that is going a lot better than Florida, but another really, really tough opponent tonight. If the Jets could play that kind of game against Dallas, and if they get results, I still think it's probably too late, but it would certainly probably go a long way to those who want to still believe in this core and what this team is doing. And, they showed a lot of good signs the other night in Florida, no question.
For sure. And one of the signs I think that was really shown in Florida was Cole Perfetti. I thought he was one of the Jets' best players. For people that are, on Team Tank and onto the future, you want to see this guy playing well because he's a big part of the future of this team. He had 9 points in the month of January. That's more than he had in December and November combined. So he's really, getting back to the Cole Perfetti that we saw last season. What did you think of Perfetti's game against Florida and really his month of January where he seems to be turning things around?
Yeah, and I think you, as you said yesterday, Connor, I think 9 and 14, like that's about what a 50-ish point pace. Like, so that's kind of, that's the Connor, or that's the Cole Perfetti that, we saw last year. And that's a good baseline. I still think there's even more for him to offer, but for sure, he looked really impressive the other day. Maybe he's hearing this trade talk about himself and maybe that's lighting a bit of a fire. Whatever the case is, it was a good sign for the Jets for sure. Something about Florida, because he scored both games against Florida, right? Which, if my math is correct, he's got 5 goals this year. 40% of those goals have now come against the Florida Panthers. Can we call him a Panther killer? I mean, the Jets only won 1 out of the 2, but he certainly raises his game. And, Florida, for all its flaws right now, they still have a lot of good players. And that's a good sign when a young player can kind of elevate his game against a really good opponent. This isn't him playing really good against a terrible team. And you're like, okay, well, let's see him do that against a strong team. So a great sign for Cole Perfetti for sure. And again, and we say this a lot about young players, consistency is the key. And put me in the camp, Connor, of I'm not ready at all to write Cole Perfetti off, regardless of how this year turns out. I just think that high ankle sprain, and we'll probably find out at the end of the year in maybe more detail, just what exactly that did to him. I'll say this, I was on a Jets road trip in December. This is just before Christmas. That was the one where we went to St. Louis, Denver, and Utah. And it was after one of those road games that I was down outside the room waiting to chat with players. And Cole Perfetti came out of the room and his ankle was still heavily bandaged. There was like a noticeable limp. And, it made me think like, geez, this guy, I don't think he's even fully healthy yet. And, we've heard that from players who had high ankle sprains. They didn't basically bug them the entire year, even when they came back to playing, and they never felt right. And what they ultimately needed was a long period of rest and recovery, which, the summer would provide. So you'd like to see Cole Perfetti finish strong. And I got to think that as the season goes along, he's probably feeling a bit better physically. I think, though, until this year is over and he can maybe stay off his feet for several weeks, like he's probably not fully going to heal. And, I think that what we saw last year from Cole Perfetti and what we've seen in glimpses this year is hopefully a sign of much more to come from him.
Absolutely. And we'll see. That'll be a big storyline the rest of the season here. And then obviously pending RFA, his contract in the offseason as well. Before I hit you with a few Olympics questions, the trade freeze or the roster, there's a little roster things that teams can do, but really a trade freeze is going to take into account this Wednesday. Are you expecting the Jets to make any moves prior to that trade freeze, or do you think it's just going to be a sprint coming out of the break when they have, I think, 5 games before the March 6th trade deadline, and that's when we'll see the bulk of their pending UFAs potentially moved?
Well, here's where tonight's game, to me, gets a little interesting because, again, like if you're the Jets and you just go 3-1 on this road trip, and granted, you still have a massive hole to climb out of, but if you go into New Jersey and they're not necessarily playing very well, and obviously Florida not playing very well, but if you could go into Dallas and beat Dallas, and this group is kind of saying to you like, hey, we we're kind of ready to rock here. Does that give a notoriously patient GM like Kevin Cheveldayoff even more reason to pause and just think, like, hold on here. Let's see. We've got a few more games left till the actual trade deadline, not the artificial one on Wednesday. Does that buy a little more time? I mean, I'm in the camp that at the end of the day, the Jets have 8 expiring contracts, and they should be trying to see what they could get out of any or all. They're not going to trade all 8 guys, obviously. But what could you get for some of those guys? And, whether it looks like you're officially waving the white flag or, I think you could couch it with, look, these are expiring assets. We've traded a lot of draft capital in recent years. We want to try and recoup some of that. We also want to open up some spots, in these last 26 games or so for some of our young guys on the Moose who are going really well and deserve that opportunity. Like, I think you could sell it in a way that doesn't just look like, even if, the team has gone on a bit of a run here, 3-2, and if they could pull off a win tonight, I think you could still make some moves and maybe take advantage of a bit of a seller's market, but also not look like you're just completely punting on this year. That's what I think you could do. I don't know that that's what Kevin Cheveldayoff would think. And so part of me, Connor, thinks that, if the Jets still feel like they have a puncher's chance at a playoff spot, I could see them kind of kicking decisions as far down the road as possible, which might mean nothing happens, prior to Wednesday. Of course, we don't know what kind of calls Kevin Cheveldayoff's getting on any of these players and, how desperate teams might be. Like, I guess for me, the thing I wonder is what would be the urgency for a team right now to add a player when you're going to add the player, but he's not going to be able to even help your team for like 3 more weeks because the league's going dark. So I know there's the insiders and that have talked about like, oh, we could see a lot of activity. I'm more in the camp of like, are we really though? Like, yeah, we could.
Fair enough. Yeah.
But I part of me feels like, well, no, because you make so we get a flurry of moves like tomorrow and Wednesday, but then what? So all these guys then like
they have 3 weeks to move their stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
After they go to the Caribbean or whatever.
Yeah.
It's a little bit odd to me, but I guess if you wanted to get a guy acclimatized and allow him some time to process rather than the whirlwind that kind of comes with it, if it all happens at once and you're in the thick of a schedule, I guess I could see that. But so long answer to your question, I wouldn't hold my breath on any real big Jets moves by Wednesday. Mm-hmm. I think that the March 6th deadline is probably the bigger one. And they would have, so including tonight, they got 7 games left. And part of me feels like Kevin Cheveldayoff still wants to see what his team looks like, what his team does in those 7 games. And, partly what the rest of the league does. And, the playoff line is 9 right now. Like, and that's the thing. That's why I'm not so bullish on even if they keep playing well, that they really have much of a chance. It is so hard to make up ground. This is a team that has 3 regulation losses in the last 12 games. And yet the deficit has gone from, I think that the highest it was 11 to 9. And that's how hard it is to chip away. And what would it take to turn that 9 into 0? And to me, with 28 games left, like they probably got to win 21 out of those 28 games.
Yeah.
And like they would have to be not only so much better than they've been as a whole this year, they would almost have to be like one of the, if not the best team in the league over the last 28. And, you look at their schedule, they got Colorado 3 times. Like, I don't know. I just don't see it.
Yeah. And Money Puck doesn't really see it either. Their projections have the Jets at a 5.9% chance to make the playoffs. Like you said, 9 points out. 7 games till the trade deadline. Let's like, even if they won all 7, they got 14 out of a possible 14 points. Like, I don't even know, that would maybe put them within like 5 or 6 points. And then at that point, I don't know if that changes anything really. It's just so tough to make up ground. And there are so many teams in the Pacific right around it as well, at the wild card line. Let's move on. Let's move on to the Olympics, Mike, where you'll be in Milan covering the Olympics, covering the hockey. There are 4, correct me if I'm wrong, there are 4 Manitobans going, all of which are playing hockey, 2 on the men's side, 2 on the women's side.
Yep.
What are you looking forward to covering those stories on the, obviously the hockey, but some of the other big sporting events as well?
Yeah, well, certainly starting on the women's side, like there's been, for the longest time, I think Canada and the US, well, probably for a while, Canada was seen as the dominant team in women's hockey. Then for a while it became, okay, the US caught up, but it's pretty equal. And certainly based on recent events, I think there's a perception out there that the Americans have just blown past the Canadians, and they are the dominant favorite going into the women's tournament. So, I think it'll be fascinating to see Canada, the Canadian women, in this underdog role, which is kind of foreign to them, and a bit of redemption, I think, on their mind after they got clobbered during this 4-game kind of friendly that they played back earlier this winter in prep for the Olympics, where the Americans won all 4 games, and a couple of them in just absolute blowout fashion. So, that storyline. And then, from a Manitoba's perspective, it's kind of a cool story. You got Jocelyn Larocque, who's really at the tail end of what's been a tremendous hockey career for her. This is her 4th Olympic Games. And then you've got Katie Tabin, who's there for the very first time. So, I'm looking forward to chatting with both women at various times during these games and getting their, what I suspect will be very different perspectives. One, been there, done that a lot. One kind of experiencing all this for the first time. And then certainly on the men's side, I mean, the big storyline is best on best, back on the Olympic stage for the first time in seemingly forever. And I think everybody's anticipating a Canada-US showdown in the final. It's kind of fun that these teams are not going to meet in the round robin, and the way it's set up. Certainly, there's a path there for them to meet for all the marbles. But I'll be obviously watching the 2 Manitobans, Mark Stone, who's just on an absolute tear right now with Vegas, and then Travis Sanheim as well. We'll see where he factors in on that blue line. But then obviously heavy emphasis on all the Jets there. And so not only will I be watching Team Canada, for Josh Morrissey, but Connor Hrabchak, Kyle Connor, and I'll even be, making sure I spend some time watching the Swiss team with Nino Niederreiter on it. And I'll probably take in some Danish games as well, and maybe catch up with old friend Nikolai Ehlers. And, in terms of other events, those are the Manitobans, but there are Manitoba connections in a number of other sports. And I'm looking forward to telling those stories as well as I get on the ground. So some things that I'll be covering: some curling, going to be covering some speed skating, maybe even some bobsled, little bobsled action, which will be fun. There's no Jamaican bobsled team this year, though, I don't believe. But and we'll see. I mean, every Olympics always has, unique storylines and names that become household names. And so, and just kind of all the political climate of it as well will be interesting to see. Like, obviously with world events, like it'll be interesting to see what that's like when you bring all these nations together under one roof. So looking forward to the overall experience, and I'll be having daily dispatches starting, I guess, Wednesday from Milan.
Love to hear it. Well, there won't be any reporter games. You got to put on gloves and who can type the fastest or anything that. No,
I would like my chances of at least hitting the podium. Now, Stephen Wino of the Associated Press, he's going to be there, and he's the quickest hands, not just in the West, but in the East and the North and the South. Like he would be the gold medal winner for typing speed. But I like to think that I'd at least be in contention for a silver. I can pound it out pretty quickly on the keyboard. So we'll see. There's going to be the words per minute will be at a very high volume, I suspect, over these next. I'm going to be there for all 19 days of the Olympics, so it should be an absolute blast.
Well, Mike, enjoy, and we will be enjoying your coverage from very, very far away at very unconventional hours. Enjoy Milan, enjoy the hockey. It's going to be awesome, and looking forward to reading all of your work.
Appreciate you bet, and I'll still be doing my weekly hits with Huss here. Granted, it'll be mid to late evening when I touch base, but I think it actually lines up that we'll probably be doing a couple hits right from the hockey rink itself, perhaps during games that are happening on the surface below. So we'll be bringing the action to Winnipeg Sports Talk as well.
Love it. Yeah, it was a shock. I saw Finland and Sweden are playing at 5 a.m. Central. I'm like, great. I mean, that's a game I really want to watch, but I got to get up at 5 a.m. Mike, take care, and safe travels to Milan. Appreciate it.
Okay, take care, Connor.
There he is, Mike McIntyre from the Winnipeg Free Press. Let's get Remo back in here because I know you were editing a special CFL 110, sources are saying. A lot of sources have been saying in the CFL the past couple of days. What's the status here, Remo?
Yes, Hustler and Jeff recorded a special. Well, they're going to do a 10-minute tee-up coming up next. So I know people want to hear from those guys how their poker tournament was, thoughts on the Jets, the Scotties, the outdoor game. But then following this show, Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily will be doing a live raid, sending everyone over to a special edition of CFL 110 Free Ike. I wanted to title it Free Agency Opens, but that's technically not true. It's the free agency communication window is opening. So all of these contracts technically not signed, but they're agreements that they will be signed when the window officially opens. This is kind of a silly thing how it goes, but as you know, they open the gates and right away you have all these signings. So they'll be talking about all that in a later video after this. But Hustler and Jeff, not just sitting playing poker, although they did that, they are doing some work, and credit to them for recording this video that we'll be having coming up.
Sounds great. Yeah, let's. Are we getting to Huss's ads here, and then we'll go?
Sure, we'll throw to Huss, and then we'll go right into Hustler and Jeff.
Every Winnipeg Jets game, the lines are presented by our friends at Clean Line Plumbing, Heating, and Electrical, your local leader for over 40 years for the best in plumbing services as well as heating and electrical. Your one-stop shop with over 40 years of experience, and of course, the official plumbing service of the Winnipeg Jets. Not only are they the leaders in residential and commercial services, but much like the Captain Adam Lowry, they have got your back covered 24/7, 365 with 24/7 emergency services. Mark the number down, 204-500-2001. When you need them, Clean Line is there. Your local leaders for plumbing, heating, and electrical. Check them out online at cleanline.ca. Great opportunity with all these games coming up. Lots of hockey as we push to the Olympic break and the Olympics just around the corner to get together with your gang at your local Boston Pizza for the big game. Enjoy ice cold schooners, world famous BP wings, gourmet pizzas, and more. And if it is a little too cold outside for you to make it out, you can always get the great taste of Boston Pizza by ordering online at bostonpizza.com. And as we count down to the Olympics, I know many of you are going to want to get geared up in red and white to support Team Canada at the Olympic Games. And you know where to do that. Royal Sports, 750 Pembina Highway, Winnipeg's ultimate sports superstore with the best in fan gear for both Team Canada merch as we get ready for Italy in the Olympic Games, as well as the Jets and the National Hockey League, Jays and Major League Baseball, all your favorite NFL teams, Raptors, NBA, Pro Soccer, and more. While you're there, check out their incredible hockey department, the best in town with amazing deals on sticks, skates, and equipment. And if you're planning a snowboard trip, Royal's been the leader in snowboards for 25 years. check out the snowboard department today. It has been busy coming out of the holidays. Royal Sports, 750 Pembina Highway. Make sure to follow them on Instagram at Royal Sports Winnipeg for the latest merchandise drops and sale information. All right, just before we get to our next segment, let's give a big cheers to our friends at Winnipeg's favorite local brewery, Little Brown Jug.
You train day in and day out, learning new techniques, approaching new concepts, and living out the thrill of achieving your goals. Building a craft beer is no different. While you spend your hours on the ice, we spend ours here, brewing our trademark beer. Again, and again. Here's to pushing the status quo and challenging ourselves to build something memorable. 1919 by Little Brown Jug.
What is going on, WSTers? Welcome to, we'll start that over. 3, 2, 1. What is up, gang? Greetings from Costa Rica. Huss and Hammer here, finishing up our week at the Costa Rica Poker Open with our friends at CoolBet. What an awesome time it's been. Kind of don't really want to leave, although we've got a lot to come back to with the Olympic Games starting up. How you doing?
I think this is the first time I've felt sad since I've been here because the trip is coming to an end. What an awesome opportunity, obviously built around the 2026 Costa Rica Poker Festival here. What a show they put on too, right? It wasn't, I mean, a lot of it was obviously playing cards and being in that environment was really cool, but there was a lot of extra stuff, right? And in a Costa Rican style, right? Like the dancers when we had the other night, it was just, wow. It was amazing. So it's just been incredible here. Weather's been great. Sorry for you guys back home, obviously, but we'll be joining you in that pain pretty soon.
Rumors are we're going to bring back some nicer weather when we come back. So hopefully that will be the case. There's a lot to get to. And just with us being here an extra day, we kind of wanted to check in kind of a wild weekend, in sports. And Jeff, we're going to get into this in a special kind of pop-up edition of CFL 110 at the end of WST today.
Okay, the Bombers do anything?
But yeah, the Bombers were busy. The Bombers, as I tweeted out, the Bombers are back for 2026. And listen, we'll get into this much more on the show at the end of the day, but I was sort of taken aback by how quickly and rapidly everything happened. We're seeing the evolution of CFL free agency. This tampering period, from my perspective, may as well be free agency because so many of the big dogs got their big check on the first day that they were able to talk to teams.
Well, I think teams are getting used to it now, right? When in the early years of this, and I know we have only had a few years of this, but in the early on, there was a hesitation. And then there wasn't, it seemed like there wasn't really an understanding of how it worked, right? Like a lot of people didn't know if these were guaranteed or a lot of teams were reluctant to sign the pieces of paper, right? It was almost kind of these deals by word of mouth and whatnot. And so, and now you look at this season and it's very clear teams know exactly what they want, right? And I think a lot of people look at the fact that you're seeing a lot of signings on day one and they go back to that same mentality for the reason why they even put this legal tampering period in place, because in free agency, those deals used to be done within seconds, right? So obviously, some questions around whether or not they were tampering. And in a lot of cases they were, but in this, I feel this one's different. I feel it's different because again, I think teams after the Grey Cup, they identify their needs and they want to go out there. They don't want to, particularly the Bombers here, they don't want to leave things up to chance. They have a dollar number, the player has a dollar number. It doesn't take long to negotiate. And we all also know, we're not dealing with 3, 4, 5-year contracts. We're dealing with 1, maybe 2 years. So to me, it's a little bit surprising just compared to other years, but I think this is what's going to become the norm as these periods open before real free.
We're going to get into all of that coming up right after Winnipeg Sports Talk. We'll drop the pop-up edition, if you will, of CFL 110 presented by our partners at CoolBet. Speaking of CoolBet, looking forward to talking to Pat and Jake on the show later on this week. And I can tell you, after such a fun week, I'm hoping that we can pull this off again for some WST listeners. Congrats again to our winner, Greg, who had a great time. And as I tweeted out, sorry to say, we are not coming back with the championship. I guess I give myself to Barry Horowitz. I was the last
You were the last one standing.
But man, what a cool environment we had here for it. And it's really neat to play an event, an international poker event with people coming from around the world for it. And, we popped in last night as it got down to the nitty gritty. I think there were 10 players left. I think the first prize was in around $50,000 US. And these guys were grinding. I don't know how late it went, to like 2, 3 in the morning, but certainly was a grind. So
that's my big takeaway on that too, is that like it's a marathon. Like that, it is a marathon. Like,
this isn't your little, your quick sit and go online poker game.
No, if you want to win this, you got to have not only good skills with the cards, you need to have patience, and you really need to. It's a grind.
Hey, speaking of cool bet, shout out to Hot Dog and the gang there for the best in curling odds. And I got to give a personal congratulations to Carrie Einarson, who won the Scotties last night. I was on Carrie at plus money, which was a better odds than her to win than it was before the tournament. But that speaks to how amazing Caitlin Laws was in the Manitobans. I mean, I felt actually gutted for Caitlin, even though I had a Carrie ticket last night. I mean, the shot Einarson made in the attempt to force the extra end and then to win with the steal, heartbreaking for Caitlin Laws, but congratulations to Carrie Einarson, who gets her 5th Scotties championship. But let's face it, I mean, we were out yesterday having some fun on the town, got into a spot, and, listen, we weren't able to see the Jet games. By the way, shout out to the Jets for that win on Saturday. I know a lot of people are freaking out when they win games with draft lottery, but as I tweeted out, if you're going to win one game, do it against the defending Stanley Cup champs and stick it to those guys. Who knows, maybe that missed 2 points for Florida could be the difference from them making the playoffs. But let's face it, the story yesterday was the Stadium Series game. And I mean, I'll be honest, early in the day, I did not even know there was a Stadium Series game. I'm looking at the app and going, oh, Stadium Series. We found out the Gasparilla themed in Tampa, the Lightning players are wearing Buccaneers uniforms. John Cooper looks like a pirate pimp. And a goalie fight, a 4-goal comeback. I mean, I don't think there's any doubt. That's the greatest Stadium Series game the NHL's ever had.
What did you think about Swayman? I felt like Andrei Vasilevsky won that one, obviously, and to see Swayman come down, cheese blocker a guy in his own crease, then have Vasilevsky meet him there with just what was going on before. Like it was almost like, remember I made a comment, I was like, how do you even play a game after this starting thing? Like it's just the whole spectacle, and then what they scored 10 seconds into the game or something, whatever it was.
Yeah. And then Boston scored 5. Tampa came back with 4 and won in a shootout. I mean, a dream scenario for Gary Bettman and Bill Daly and everyone there in Tampa. So, I mean, to the league that obviously organized it, but I mean, I got to give huge props to the teams for leaning into that. Like all I could think of is some of the other coaches we've dealt with before in the NHL and imagining what they would say to, hey, coach, we want you to wear this for the game.
Oh, I say to you, I think it helps that that the Lightning are really good. I think less fan bases might appreciate the spectacle if you were like in the bottom of the standings. But it was yeah. And like you, I had no idea this game was happening, and how could it have finished any better?
What a wild weekend. I know obviously Jets have one more game on the road trip. Remo and Connor will have you all covered on that one, and we'll be back on Wednesday, and we'll look forward to seeing many of you out at the rink for our WST game against the Montreal Canadiens, the last one before the Olympic Games. And the timing of this trip was amazing for us, Hammer. We got away at a very cold time. I don't need to tell anyone in Winnipeg how great it is to get away at the end of January. And listen, it's been a tough season for Jet fans and the team. The fact that we're going right into the Olympic Games next week in this hockey tournament, I mean, it is going to be awesome. And, as I say, it'll be fun to get back. And I cannot wait to talk about the Olympics, Team Canada, and everything else going on for the next few weeks.
You know what? This is one of the few events that I actually get excited about. And I don't know if it's just like desensitized from being, a reporter and whatnot, but like this is best on best. You can feel the momentum building into these games. Love to see our colleagues posting, the ones that are lucky enough to go down there, posting their videos. They're getting set up and whatnot. So I'm looking forward to best on best hockey, but I'm looking forward to that energy that the Olympics brings every time it's on. So, true Canadiana, let's go Canada, and the Jets can maybe take that opportunity to think and put their best foot forward, I guess, when they were saying.
Yeah, I guess it's going to be very interesting. I mean, only 5 games before the trade deadline after the Olympic break, and then this team could look significantly different. I'd be surprised if there wasn't some changes, and needless to say, that'll be a big topic as it will continue to be on WST over the next number of weeks. Gang, thanks again to the great people at Coolbet. Unbelievable opportunity to be down here, and we look to hopefully pull it off again. If you haven't played in our poker tourneys, we do them on a monthly basis. When you hear us talking about them, follow our social medias, get in on it, and who knows, maybe you'll be down here in 10 months doing this all over again. Stay tuned right after WST today, or if you're listening on the podcast, it should be available when you're hearing this. We're going to do a recap of a wild weekend before CFL Free Agency even technically started, but it really has, and a big, big weekend for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. So we'll send it back to Remo and Connor from Costa Rica, traveling tomorrow, and I'll be back Wednesday to get ready for the Jets and Habs here on WST.
3, 2, 1. Hey, what a great conversation there. Hustler and Jeff Hamilton. They're going to have a special edition of CFL 110 after this. We're going to bring in Connor Hrabchak. We do have some notes here from Winnipeg Jets head coach Scott Arniel. And, we talked about the lines before, Connor, and the Winnipeg Jets social media has put out their lines having Gus Nyquist with Connor and Scheifele and Alex Iafallo with Koepke and Barron. And I felt like Iafallo had a run there on the top line. The results, they weren't getting them. You have Gus Nyquist in the garage ready to palm out. He's had some. This guy had 70 points 2 years ago. Why not give him a shot? And if you're trying to get some offense, or alternatively you pump up his trade deadline value, I think it could be a win-win here for the Jets in Dallas.
The Gustav Nyquist showcase continues, Remo, as now he goes up to projected to be the top line with Connor Scheifele and Nyquist. And yeah, it's really interesting that, I don't know, this is such an interesting player that he's either in the press box or on the power play or on the press box or on the top line. And it's really, and then he makes one nice play and now he's projected to be on the top line as well. It's going to be interesting to see, but I think we can, look at the Alex Iafallo version of the top line and maybe be left wanting more from that. The Jets went back to Gabe Vilardi for the Devils game because they weren't getting any offense from that top line. Then they go back to Iafallo these past couple of games. And again, the top line isn't generating much offense. And then this last game, Nyquist goes up for a couple of shifts and they get a goal off the rush. So I like it if they're looking for offense, which they'll need against the Dallas Stars. Why not give Gustav Nyquist a shot? And again, worst case scenario, or maybe best case scenario, you're showcasing him. He pumps up his trade value, gets a few points, gets a few secondary assists playing with Connor and Scheifele, and he's a guy that you can move at the deadline as one of your pending UFAs.
Yeah, here's Scott Arniel from, just, an hour or two ago on tonight's opponent, the Dallas Stars.
Yeah, they're in a race, obviously, themselves right now with Mini and in the top of the division. Their power play is on fire, absolutely on fire. So, if we're out there, we got to make sure that we're doing the right things. Secondly, stay out of the box. That'd go a long way. But still, a lot of the similarities, a lot of the same things. They straight line, they attack, they're quick off the breakouts, getting numbers up the ice. They defend real strong. We saw these guys twice. We kind of know what we need to do against them.
Right, you need to be assertive, but you also have to play the same kind of patient game as you did against the Panthers while getting to the hard areas.
Yeah, I thought the Panther game, I thought we were really fast. Our transition was quick. We didn't overhandle pucks. We gained zones. Got them in their end of the rink, created chances, limited what they were trying to do. They're a heavy dump team, and I thought we did a really good job of kind of getting back to pucks quick, running the interference, buying time for the guy getting the puck, and then also, like I mentioned earlier, just playing fast, getting out of there quick.
There's head coach Scott Arniel looking to play fast, play quick. Connor, I think it's going to be a real tough test tonight against Dallas, last game of a road trip. Dallas top team in the league. See if they can replicate their performance on Saturday against Florida.
Yeah, Dallas top 5 in the NHL, but they're 6-4-0 in their last 10. Just recently beat the Mammoth on Saturday in their most recent game, 3-2. Beat the Golden Knights in a shootout. Beat the Blues twice in a back-to-back. But then before that, we're kind of sliding. They lost to the Blue Jackets, who are red hot. Lost to the Lightning. Lost to the Mammoth, Ducks. So they're kind of up and down. But like Scott O'Neill said, their power play is absolutely incredible. Of course, they've got Mikko Rantanen and Wyatt Johnston and all of these high-end players that they get out on the ice, they have a very good chance of scoring. And they have the top end defense too, and Heiskanen and Harley and Lindell. They have the goalie and Ottinger. They're a very well-rounded team, and that's why they're 5th in the NHL standings and fighting with the Minnesota Wild for what seems to be the 2 seed in the Centrals. Colorado's pulled away from everyone, but them and Minnesota will be in a very tough battle for home ice advantage in the first round of the playoffs. And Dallas, again, they have a lot of Olympians. Mike brought it up earlier. How hard are these players going to be going with, a once in a lifetime opportunity waiting for them in a week? We'll see. We'll see what kind of intensity this game brings. It might not be the typical Central Division, super physical, super intense showdown, but I still think it'll be a good game. And Dallas is a fun team to watch. They got a lot of star players.
Yeah. Ken Weeb was there on the site. Shout out to the Free Press. He was asked about Gus Nyquist, what they're looking for from him.
Well, I think that, that's his skill set, right? That's the things you look to. When he has the puck, he's creative. He's got great vision, great patience. I like the fact the other night how fast he played. Like I mentioned, the whole group played fast, but I like the way he really moved his feet and, made a difference, whether that was even, getting first to the forecheck or coming back into our end, breakouts, those type of things. So you saw the skill set on that goal by Scheif there, him cutting in, making that play to KC. That's the stuff that we need.
I mean, obviously he hasn't gone through something like this in his career before, but what does it say about him, the ability to stay ready after 12 out of 14 healthy scratches?
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about him, and I've had lots of chats. And at the end of the day, he recognized that, maybe he wasn't at his best, and also that I was trying to find something, to find some other chemistry, other places. But this was his chance. This was the opportunity. And again, he made most of it the other night. Hopefully tonight he can go right back in and do it again. And when you have guys like that, playing and creating and, being a threat offensively, it certainly helps our team, to play more in their end of the rink.
What have you seen from your power play in the last block here?
You know what? I thought Florida was real good. Tampa, I didn't think so much with Florida. I thought we did a great job against a very aggressive group of hounding pucks. And then once we created the turnover, then we attacked. Fets had 2 great looks, a couple of chances. Gabe had one, and a couple that were right there that we just missed on. I really like the way that we supported, we retrieved, and then we went right back on the attack. Need to do it again against a real good Dallas PK. So it just needed to be consistent. It was good the other night. It's got to be good again tonight.
Any thoughts on the outdoor game? Did you watch, and what did you think of?
That was one of the best games I've seen in a long time. Not just because it was outdoors. That was, obviously all the penalties, the comeback. It was fun. It was exciting, and I don't know. I guess now that's the latest, greatest thing is goalies fighting. So I really don't want my goalie doing that. But at the end of the day, it was pretty entertaining, and got. I'm sure the nation is pretty excited about watching that last night.
I was going to say, you're focused on the now, but does it get you excited for next October in some ways for your own outdoor game?
Yeah, I'm not going that. And no, I'm not going to dress. I'm not going to dress like Coop. No chance.
Oh, no.
No.
You don't have that suit in your wardrobe? No.
I'm going to be in a jacket, a heavy fur coat or something. So.
All right, that was maybe the best comment, Connor, from Scott O'Neill. So he's not going to dress like Coop, no chance.
No.
And we don't know if he's, if John Cooper had a heated vest under there or some kind of heated shirt. I think that's, there's questions about that. But Scott wearing a fur coat, like the Chris Streveler fur coat, like that kind of fur coat, I'm here for that. So that did kind of get me excited. That saying, hey, that outdoor game yesterday was so awesome, 60,000 people there. And we are going to have that type of event here with an alumni game as well. So I'm curious, what kind of theme they're going to cook up, because that made it so interesting. You had the pirate ship theme. You had the intros, which were so awesome. The fireworks. You had them coming on the field or the ice after with the treasure. It was very, you had the commentators all in, Mark Messier. I think the most ridiculous costume that I've seen a NHL commentator have during a game.
Yeah.
For a Hall of Fame player, right? Like, I think the fact that it was Mark Messier made it so great. So I think they got a lot to live up to at the Heritage Classic here in October.
Yeah, totally. And I know people are super pumped for the alumni game as well, with Dustin Byfuglien being named to the preliminary roster, but the actual game itself will be super exciting. Montreal, just as an aside, has a very exciting young team that scores a ton of goals. So I think the on-ice product will just naturally be entertaining. And I doubt we'll get any goalie fights. I was talking with some Jets fans over the weekend, Remis, or I guess last night after the goalie fight happened, and I was thinking to myself, like, I don't think the Jets goalies are, like, they might be near the bottom of the NHL and like most likely to be involved in a goalie fight. I just feel like Eric Comrie, we'll start with him, doesn't really have that in his bag. Like, he's such a nice guy, such an upbeat personality. I can't see him like dropping the gloves. And then Connor Hrabchak is just so dialed in and like so in his own like world and own zone that if a goalie like challenged him to a goalie fight, I think he would just like scoff at it. Like, I think if you were doing a league-wide power rankings of which goalie tandems are most likely to get in a fight, I think the Jets would be pretty low. I don't know if that's a hot take or not, but I can't see either of those guys getting involved in one of these scraps that we've seen twice in the last 13 days, Remo.
Man, these guys fight, and I think you're like, this is awesome. This is a goalie fight, but also you're like, if you're Tampa or you're a fan of USA
Vasi
hockey,
breaks his hand.
You're screwed. Like, your season's done. And maybe with goalies, it's different because they're not wearing helmets. I find when players fight, they have helmets. They have visors, and I feel like it's really, it maybe doesn't happen that often, but guys can hurt their hand pretty well or cut it on either of those.
Yeah, exactly. And the lack of helmets definitely helps keep them safer from a broken hand for sure. But yeah, there's a lot that can go wrong there. And I don't know, it's kind of you love it in the moment and it's a goalie fight and it's so sick and it's amazing. But at the same time, if you're John Cooper, I don't know what he had to say about it after the game. I remember, Paul Maurice was here 2 weeks ago talking about his goalie fight that Bobrovsky was involved in. And he was saying, man, I hated every second of it. And you're just relieved when it's over. So I think that's what both coaches were probably thinking. Again, Team USA executives, Jeremy Swayman is fighting. He's going to the Olympics. That was another layer to all of this. But again, in the moment, it's super, super cool. Outdoor game, goalie fight. How could you not love it? And then, you can analyze it and say, well, if this guy got hurt, then they'd have some major issues. But again, I don't think it's a coincidence either, Remis, that it's Tampa Bay and Florida, the last two goalie fights, because Maurice also kind of talked about like, Bobrovsky deserves it. He's been here so long and these regular season games can get kind of dull. And I think the same can kind of apply for Vasilevsky. Like, Tampa's won cups. The regular season can get kind of dull. So what do? They get in a goalie fight. John Cooper wears a ridiculous outfit to keep things fresh. Like, I just think this is how teams are keeping things fresh. And maybe the goalie fight angle of it is an extreme, but I think both teams can kind of relate in that sense where these regular season games, do they really mean anything to Tampa and Florida? I mean, Florida right now, for sure, they're outside of a playoff spot, but it's tough to motivate yourself after you've won multiple cups, and goalie fights are just fun as hell. So why not?
Yeah, fun as hell. Why not? So here we are, Monday. Exactly. We're back at it tonight. Winnipeg Jets, man, that afternoon game threw me off. I was ready for my routine, my 6:12 Hockey Night in Canada start. Says 6 o'clock though on all the apps.
Right.
And so we had a nice 3 p.m. start, but it's 7:30 tonight in Dallas. Connor, let's go over the lines for a cool bet. And I'm throwing them on here. We do have a couple games tonight. Sabres and Panthers. That's a big playoff Huge tilt. Senators and Pittsburgh as well. Islanders, Capitals. Two of Barry Trotz's former teams. The Predators GM who announced today he's stepping down. The Canadiens and Wild. Minnesota returns home. That was quite a beatdown of Edmonton on Saturday night. And the Blues and Predators, Sharks, Blackhawks, and there it is, Jets, Stars. We do have a late one tonight, Red Wings, Avalanche, and Canucks, Mammoth. Oh, and Leafs, Flames. So for a Monday before the break, heavy schedule here. We do have the Jets plus 125 underdogs in Dallas. Is there a game here that's catching your eye, Connor?
Yeah, until the Jets game starts, I'm going to be watching the first couple of periods of that Sabres-Panthers game. It's a massive one for the Panthers. Money Puck has this kind of display where they show, if a team wins a game or loses a game, how much it swings their playoff odds. The Panthers, if they lost this game to the Sabres in regulation tonight, they'd go down to 23% to make the playoffs. But if they win, they'd go up to 37%. They're at roughly 32% right now. So a regulation loss to the Sabres tonight for the Panthers would be detrimental to their playoff hopes. And then, there are some other ones on the slate too. Obviously, the Jets game I'm interested in. And then Canadiens Wild. That's the prime game. And the Wild with Quinn Hughes play a very exciting brand of hockey, as do the Montreal Canadiens. So I think I'll be tuning into a bit of the prime broadcast. And then, of course, when the Winnipeg Jets game starts, I will be locked into that as well. And then the late games, there have been better late game slates. I don't know about you, Remis, but not really fired up for Leafs Flames at 9 p.m.
What about Red Wings? I guess Red Wings Avs 8:30.
8:30, like... There's a little bit too much overlap there with the Jets game, I think. I don't know.
And you and I will be doing the post games. You haven't had enough of us. We'll be weighing in on this Jets Stars game. And I should mention, for people looking to play at CoolBet, it is Super Bowl week. And for all of the loyal WST listeners out there, they've got an offer looking out there for anyone looking to sprinkle a bit on the Super Bowl or whatever else CoolBet offers. You can double your deposit up to $60 using code WSTSB60. That bonus code runs until kickoff and comes with a player-friendly one-time rollover at minimum odds of -200. As always, stay cool, bet responsibly. So that's something I may look to take advantage of here before kickoff, as it is Super Bowl media day today. I'm sure lots of storylines. I don't know if Inez Signs, the Mexican reporter, is still there doing her thing, but I'm sure there'll be a lot of wacky stuff. Maybe Jimmy Kimmel sending Guillermo out there with some ridiculous questions. Anything goes. We do have some player prop odds. I mean, you want to look at the Jets scores. I mean, Mark Scheifele's been plus 200. He was plus 200 last week on Thursday. He was plus 190 to score. If you think Velarde coming off pregame plus 300, Connor or Cole Perfetti plus 375. So imagine the Jets' implied total with the game total of 5.5, and the Stars a -147 favorite. They probably have the Jets down for about 2 goals here, which probably inflates some of these, but I don't know if there's a Jet you wanted to pick or any shot on goal props, anything there.
Yeah, how about this, Remis? Cole Perfetti plus 145 to get a point tonight back on the top power play unit. I think that's an interesting one because he hadn't been on the top power play unit for a while. Now he's on the second line playing with Gabe Vilardi. I think his chances of getting a point go up exponentially playing with Gabe Vilardi versus, Taves and Pearson, because Vilardi puts up more points, plain and simple. And then on the power play, top unit, I mean, anything can really happen in terms of getting points there. And I know the power play hasn't connected as of late, but Perfetti had a few chances himself in the Florida game. So I don't know, Cole Perfetti to get a point plus 145 coming off his best month, looking to follow it up in February. Now on the top power play unit, I don't hate it.
I like that. If a guy's getting power, you're kind of looking for opportunity. This is a guy, he's an offensive player. Sure. That's an interesting one. We'll see how it plays out. We do have some Super Bowl odds. Man, I think it was like 800 different items you could wager on at CoolBet last week. Well, Connor, it's up to 1170 as there's like Bad Bunny, first song, last song. I know you were watching the Grammys. Didn't he win a big award last night?
Album of the year.
Album of the year.
Album of the year.
You were
Bad Bunny.
You were flipping feverishly back and forth between Scotties, the outdoor game, and the Grammys.
Yeah. It was a good night for multiple screens, Remis. But I mean, there's a lot going on there. They made a big joke during the Grammys that since he's playing the Super Bowl, Bad Bunny, he can't perform at the Grammys. Like it's a contract thing.
Oh, really?
They kept playing into that. I don't it must be true to an extent. I honestly am not sure. I didn't look into it, and maybe I should have looked into it before bringing it up on the air. But like that was a running joke all night. Was like Trevor Noah was trying to get Bad Bunny to perform, but he's like, no, I can't because I'm performing the Super Bowl, and in my contract I can't perform. I don't know, but anyways, I didn't even know that was a thing.
I guess I heard that there was a conspiracy from the NFL to give Bad Bunny the award last night so people would tune into the Super Bowl. And you can wager, Connor, on the total global viewership of the halftime show over under 135.5 million people watching. So you can bet on who's going to be on stage with Bad Bunny. Must have a microphone. Cardi B is the favorite, minus 250. J-Lo, minus 125. Ricky Martin, minus 125. Man, Dua Lipa, Mark Anthony, Shakira, former halftime Travis Scott, Drake, Pitbull, The Weeknd,
Pitbull,
Taylor Swift, plus 6,000. Justin Bieber was at the Grammys too last night, performing topless. Wasn't the only person topless at the Grammys, but he's performing topless in basketball shorts.
Yes, he was. That was the big performance last night. Main color of Bad Bunny's top during first appearance, black, plus 175 favorite. Interesting. These markets are hilarious, Remis. I don't know. Bad Bunny to perform an unreleased song, plus 185 to the yes. Like, I don't know. If it's an unreleased song, like it's like, I don't know. That's quite something.
People use it to promote, to springboard to a new tour, a new album.
Yeah.
So there's pregame with a coin toss. Oh, we got more stuff here. Who will be shown first on the national anthem? Mike McDonald or Mike Vrabel? Which head coach? Any word omitted in the national anthem? Oh, here we've got the length. Will a player or coach cry during the national anthem on the broadcast? Yes,
minus 400.
These are crazy. Will Mac Hollins enter the stadium barefoot? Yes. Is that a thing for him, the receiver on the Patriots? Is that a thing?
He comes to every game like barefoot. Yeah, it's the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen. But that just goes to show he's minus 500 to show up barefoot. So that's how often he does it.
So yes, this is ridiculous. We'll be looking at it throughout the week.
Yeah.
I've never seen will Bill Belichick be at the game with Jordan Hudson? Will the first TD celebration be a dance move, plus 200, acrobatics, plus 300, a high knee run, plus 350, athlete tribute, plus 400, movie TV scene, plus 600?
How do you even determine that?
I don't know. We'll have to dive into it. We'll have to go look at past Super Bowls, and see. This is crazy, crazy stuff here. I'm kind of curious I don't know if they have CFL futures, like how the Bombers odds would have. Oh, here we are. Okay. The Bombers are plus 850 now for the Grey Cup. I don't know what they would have been before free agency, but the Alouettes plus 275, the Lions plus 450, Rough Riders plus 600, Argos 625, Stamps plus 725. We have the offseason champion Blue Bombers. I think that's not bad.
Not bad value there.
I have to check what they were at the end of the season. I don't have that information.
Yeah. I mean, Montreal, BC's interesting. Saskatchewan to repeat is the third highest, plus 600. Like, I don't know.
The Hamilton's pretty low. There's a lot of West teams there. Not a lot of. I think Montreal being there. Well, they have Davis Alexander, who was hurt in that game, very clearly. And the East, they have the easiest path to the Grey Cup. East Division.
Yeah, I mean that's why you see BC, Saskatchewan, Calgary, and Winnipeg all kind of in the same range ish. I mean, BC's the second closest favorite in all of those things, but it's plus 850. If you think the offseason champion banner will result in wins, which I think it will. I mean, bringing on offensive linemen, defensive linemen, impact players, not bad value there. Not bad.
A lot of people getting mad at me for mentioning that the Bombers would be off-season champions because apparently that doesn't usually work out well. I remember we crowned the Stars off-season champions like years ago, and it took them a couple years before they got to the Cup final. That was in the bubble. We had Nashville off-season champion. I think we had the Jets off-season champions one time too, and it didn't didn't go well. But I feel like they've got a good opportunity. You hope these new pieces can come together. Football, especially with the O-line, you need some time together. It doesn't just click right away all the time.
Yeah, exactly. That's the biggest thing, right? Is the chemistry. And like the Bombers are bringing in 2 different receivers, Tim White and Tommy Neild, and they'll need to develop a rapport with Zach Collaros and all of those things. And offensive line chemistry is a thing, apparently. Like offensive linemen will tell you that, coaches will tell you that. So that's a thing too. How does Serezna work on this defensive line that doesn't really rush many players? Usually rush 3, drop everyone else. So it's going to be interesting to see how these players fit into the Bombers. But there's no doubt that like they're veterans that have proven that they are great CFL players in the past, and we'll see if they can continue that this season.
Yeah, well, it's time to wind down the show. I'm going to hand it off to Hustler and Jeff live with more Bomber talk on a special Costa Rica edition of CFL 110. We'll be back tomorrow looking back on the Winnipeg Jets game against Dallas tonight. Shout out to the sponsors here at Winnipeg Jets. Join us Wednesday against the Canadians. Should be a great night. WinnipegJets.com/WST. Uptown Alley, Rolly's Transfer, St. Vital Dental, Canadian Club, Princess Auto, Chud's Power Sports, Manitoba Battery, Clean Line, Little Brown Jug, Boston Pizza, Royal Sports, and Cool Bet. There it is for Connor Hrabchak. And thank you to our guests, Taylor Allen, Mike McIntyre, and Hustler and Jeff in Costa Rica. I'm Michael Remis. This has been another edition of Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily.
Oh my God! Oh! Shut it down! Let's go home!
Thanks for tuning in to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast feed at winnipegsportstalk.com.